Hey guys, welcome back to Castle Combat TV, and in this video, I will be showing you guys 25 strong Gauntlet cards. So before we go into that, I would like to announce the July 4th Gauntlet. So the rules are on screen right now. It's basically just leave a warrior that's highest battle score. There are a couple of banned cards like Negating Andromeda, Crazy, and Sylvan. Those are the only 3 cards that are banned. And also, since it's the 4th of July, any red and blue warriors will have 1 reroll for the whole tournament. That's basically everything I have to say for the intro. Let's get right to the cards. Alright, so I'm not going to include any obvious cards like King Crimson, Otho, Prince Morgan, Atlas. Those are obvious. Anyways, so you have Onion. So Wither, your foe loses 1 power point every round, but can't go below 0. So Onion, you'll probably lose like the first 2 rounds. But once he gets going, once your opponent gets down to 0 and they don't have an auto win ability, you would win. That's Onion. Next up, we have Mordred. So 2 or higher, copy your foe's special ability. So if you really don't know what to do, just take Mordred and then just copy whatever your opponent gets. And if you're like a higher seed, like let's say you're the 2nd seed with Mordred, you get your ability first. So Mordred, good card there. We have Avalanche. So if you lose a round, add 2 to your power. If you win, do not add anything. So there is a rule in Gauntlet. Your power cannot exceed 7. It's a really good card because if you lose, you gain the 2 power. And if you win, then that's great. You don't gain anything, but your opponent loses life. So that's a great card there. Moving on to our next card, it is Blue Robe Santa. So roll 2 dice, choose best. Doubles, bring back a card from dungeon to hand. If you roll blue dice, then you can roll 1 die per round. So really good card there because Santa Claus, because on doubles I actually give him a life. And keep in mind, when he rolls 2 dice, he's guaranteed to reroll 1 die, so he always has a really decent chance to double. Moving on to our next card, we have Warden. So Warden gains 1 power every round of battle. Warden wins ties. So basically a Shogun. I just picked him over Shogun because he's a 5. Basically he gets up to a 7 that wins ties, which is very good. Moving on to our next card, we have Samurai Matt. So I am going through these cards really fast because we have a lot of cards to get through. So Epic Battle, Samurai Matt can only be defeated by 2. If defeated by 1, then your foe auto loses the round. Beating someone by 2 in Castle Combat is really common, but in a high-powered Gauntlet, when you're playing against 5s and 6s, winning by 2 isn't as common unless you completely wipe them. Because if you do lose by 1, it doesn't count as a tie. You actually do damage against your opponent. So that's really good there. Moving on, we got Cyclone. So roll 3 dice. Triples remove your foe. The more dice you can roll in Gauntlet, the better. Moving on to our next card, it is Molnir the 13th. So really, really beefy card. Power 5, roll 2 dice, choose highest. +1 versus bad guys. If defeated, roll die. 5 or higher, you can rematch your foe once. So there's a really high-powered card. If he's not playing an auto-win card, he probably is going to win as long as they're not an auto-win card. On a 5 or higher, if he hits, then we do the round all over again, and we regenerate all the life for both sides and pretend the last battle didn't happen. So Molnir, pretty decent card there. So let's stack these like this. Now moving on to our next card, we have Shade the Foglord. So before battle, roll a die. If you roll 3 or higher, you can cancel your foe's special ability. They're -2 power. This card is actually power 3. You can bring down a 5 to a 3. That's negated. So this really, really good card there. If he hits his ability, then he definitely can fight against anyone in a Gauntlet at any given point. So now moving on to our next card, it is Celtic. So Celtic, before battle, roll die. If you roll 6, remove your foe from game. For battle, +2 versus wizards and gets 1 reroll per round. So the reroll per round really does help him. And the 6, he can do triple damage like out the gate. So really good card there. Anyways, moving on to our next card, we have King Kemp. So King Kemp, before battle, roll die. Deduct that many power points from your foe. Roll a die. If you lose on 3 or higher, go to winners. And this is not the power 3 one because the power 3 one is actually not legal. If he has me first, you could definitely do some serious damage because if you have the Stun Scepter, that thing can go to like -6 if you get lucky. And not only that, if you're defeated 3 or higher, you gain extra life. So King Kemp, decent card in Gauntlet. Permafrost. So same story, kind of like with Warden, all those cards gain 1 power after every round of battle, and he caps out at 7. I would say Warden's a little better because Warden has the extra like win versus ties, but keep in mind they all cap out at 7s. Moving on to our next card, we have Favor the Fast. So power 4, you can force your foe to reroll once per round, and you can reroll once per round. So the per round is a huge part of it. So every round of battle, you get a reroll, and you can force your foe to reroll. So that's a really underrated pick in my opinion. But now moving on to our next card, we have Doppelganger. So kind of like Mordred. So if your opponent's like an Onyx the 3rd, since I have the same card of variant, I could swap Doppelganger out and then bring out Onyx the 3rd. So if it's like Grail Prince Morgan versus Grail Prince Morgan and I have me first, I'll swap to my Prince Morgan. I have a chance to negate, and when I hit the negate, then I have the advantage of rolling the 2 dice and getting the reroll. So Doppelganger, really interesting card. Moving on to our next card, we have Count Cardiac. So really good card in Gauntlet. +1 power if you want to. If you say roll a die peasant, and if they roll a 6, you can say reroll that 6 knave, and you can force them. So Count Cardiac is a King Crimson counter. So if you don't like King Crimson, you can try to snipe King Crimson with Count Cardiac. Moving on to another card, we have Blizzard the Wizard. So before battle, roll a die. If you roll equal or higher than your foe's power, then they don't get a battle roll +1 versus bad guys. So if your opponent's a power 4 and below, it's basically an auto forfeit. If they're like a 5 or 6, then you might lose because he could roll bad, but honestly, if Blizzard the Wizard hits his ability, it's lights out for your opponent. Moving on to our next card, we have Geist. So Geist is actually a really good card. I didn't realize how good it was until I actually looked at it. Roll 2 dice, choose the best. You can take your opponent's best roll, and they have to reroll. So that's basically a power 4 Pig Pixie. But again, so here, double 3s. So he's a 3, and his opponent rolls a 2. So if it's a low roll, you don't take it. But if it was like a 6, then you take the roll, and they got to reroll, and then they roll something low. So it's really underrated card for Gauntlet. So yeah, Geist, really good card. Moving on to another card, we have Porthos. So Porthos, roll 3 dice. If one of them matches your foe's power number exactly, then you win the round of battle. If not, choose the best. This ability can't be negated. Really, really good card there, just because, like, on 3 dice, you're definitely going to match. I think we saw King Porthos in my last Gauntlet. He matched, I forgot what card he matched, but he did hit a lot on whoever his opponent was. But Porthos, I think he's better than King Porthos because he can't be negated, but really underrated pick, and also just a very funny card. Moving on to our next card, we have Sir Inferno. So Sir Inferno, roll 2 dice, choose highest, plus 1 versus Legends. So in a high-powered Gauntlet, he's a 5 that rolls 2 dice in battle. It doubles auto-win battle, so doubles is double damage. And now moving on to another red bag card, we have Queen Scarlet. So Queen Scarlet, Fire Wand, on a 5 or 6, you auto-win that round of battle. So basically, you have a 33% chance of getting a single damage hit, despite being a 3. So for Queen Scarlet, I'm surprised no one has ever picked her in a Gauntlet, because she's actually very, very strong. Moving on to another card, we have Astro. So Astro attacks from above. Before every round of battle, roll a die. On a 5 or higher, then you auto win the round. If not, battle is normal. Astro wins tie. So I'd say Astro is slightly better than Queen Scarlet because, first of all, if you roll before the battle and you miss, that means you rolled pretty low. You probably rolled like a 4 or 3, and you probably don't want to keep that roll, and then you go battle again. And then there's a really good chance you'll probably do decent there, and he wins tie. So now we have 4 cards left. At card 22, we have Overfrost. So he was in my last Gauntlet. Roll 2 dice in battle, roll a 1, you auto win the round. Snake Eyes, then you remove your foe from game. So it's a win-win. If you roll a 1, you do single damage guaranteed. And if you roll a 6, you're really high power. So not much to say there. All right, so now moving on to our last 3 cards. We have Ohm. So I did cover him in my last video too. Can't be removed from game, and no one can have an automatic win. He must reroll 1s. A very, very good card. Must reroll 1s. Part of this card is very, very underrated because it does give him an in-battle ability. So that's a really cool card there. So I guarantee someone's going to pick that card. Now moving on to our last 2 cards, we have Dislight. So Dislight, if your foe is higher power, roll a die. If you roll 4 or higher, then you win the round. So it doesn't state that that's a before battle ability. So what this card is, if your foe is a higher power than you, you have a 50-50 chance of doing guaranteed single damage. If you don't hit, then you probably will lose because you're a 3. But in a high power Gauntlet, there's a 95% chance that you're playing a warrior that is a higher power, which very good card there. And now moving on to our final card, it is Gimbal the Nimble. So Gimbal, really good card. Be nimble, roll 2 dice. If they add up to over your foe's power, then you auto win the round. If you tie or go lower, you're removed from game. So if he misses, he takes triple damage. But if he gets negated or runs into like Blizzard the Wizard, he is screwed. But Gimbal the Nimble is the final card of the video. Yeah, that's basically everything I have to say. Make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.